Welcome back, Vape Dr. Dan here, once again with another safety video. So today we're going to be covering Ohm's Law and amp limits, as well as converting milliamp hours to watt hours. So first off, to talk about Ohm's Law. So it's mostly just a continuation on the battery safety bit that I've been going over lately. Sorry, I got some stuff going on here. Alright, so now Ohm's Law is the formula I have right behind me here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it on the video, but it's what we use to determine what we can build safely with vaping. So, for example, I've got diagrams here of all the different types of mech mods, or unregulated mods, I should say. And then formulas below for calculating each safe builds. First thing we're going to want to touch on is each part of the formula. So up here I've got current. I is current in amps. I don't know why Professor Ohm or I don't know. It was a physicist named Ohm, and he came up with this formula for determining the rate at which power is transferred through a circuit. And he used I to measure current in amps. V is the voltage amount. P is power, and that is measured in watts. And resistance is ohms, and that's that funky kind of omega symbol. Now in these diagrams, you'll notice there are cells in each. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it from that range, but the long side in my diagrams represents the negative terminal, and the short side represents the positive terminal on a battery. A switch is represented by these two lines that are broken with one side going up, so it kind of looks like that. That's where a switch is, and a resistor is this kind of squiggly EKG looking thing going on. And that's the resistor, so that's going to be our atomizer in this case. Now, where the formula goes is up at the top here. I've got the most common way that you see Ohm's Law. It's I equals V over R. So that's the current is equal to the voltage divided by the resistance. Now, it also translates into these other formulas right here. So that's V over I is equal to R. So that will give you, you'll use the output voltage of your battery over the amp limit of your battery to determine what's the lowest safe build that you can do. Also, if you are interested, you can determine the voltage of a circuit by placing the amps times the resistance. So also the last one down here I have is quick for determining wattage. It is power equals current times voltage. So that is basically the formula in a breakdown. Like I was saying, this one right here is how we would determine our lowest safe build. I'm going to take this off because all this lighting has made it a lot warmer than I had initially assumed it would. So being that is our formula for determining the lowest safe build, I'm going to punch in some values that I know already. For example, a Samsung 25R 18650 battery has a 20 amp limit. I've got a list right here actually. Now, this list I have totally plagiarized. It is not mine. I went onto the electronic cigarette forum and Battery Mooch. He's got a list of all of these batteries and then a few more. I think I'm short about 6 batteries on my list here. And I'll put a picture up close of that somewhere right here. I'm just going to do this for a second so I know where to put it. So that'll be the battery list. and I've pretty well just copied the whole list. Now, Battery Mooch does these tests on batteries and safety to determine what their maximum output amperage is, and he has this whole system. I will put a link down below for you to check it out, because it's a great resource to have as a vapor. If you want to use batteries for mech mods, I would first check out your battery's limitations on the Battery Mooch chart, because a lot of what the factory or manufacturer says is the amp limit is not the actual amp limit. Like, for example, it can be off by as much as 20 amps. I've got this AWT purple battery. It's supposed to be rated to 40 amps. It actually is only rated to 20 amps before it will start to fail. Before it starts to hit the danger zone type thing. And you start damaging your batteries at that level. Another good example, the LG HG2s. They're like one of my favorite batteries. They're 3000 mAh. They're claimed to be 20 amps, and they are actually a 20 amp battery. So that's a good one to use. It's 3000 mAh. It's a great battery in my opinion. The VTC4s, I was told by someone that they were 30 amp batteries, but they were mistaken. They are not 30 amp batteries. So the Sony VTC4s at 2100 mAh are actually 20 amp batteries. They can go a little bit higher before they hit the danger zone, but I would recommend using 20 amps as their limit. And this is the continuous discharge, so this isn't the pulse rating. And I don't recommend you use the pulse ratings, because that's when you start to get into the danger zone anyways. Because you'll think that they're rated to much higher limits than they are. And you can start damaging your batteries, and bad stuff can happen after that. We all know from all the videos out there, all of the scary, fear-mongering news stories. So, using this as a guide, I've done some calculations here for our single cell mechanical mod. So let's say you've got full charge on it, it's 4.2 volts. You've got a amp limit of 20 amps. So let's say for example, this is the Samsung 25R. The blue ones, I know they're 20 amp batteries. I know that a full charge has 4.2 volts. So our lowest safe voltage, if you divide 4.2 volts by 20 amps, you get 0.21 ohms. That is the safest build. Now, to determine your wattage that's firing at, it actually fires down to 84 watts it comes out at. Now, a dual cell series mechanical mod. My Noisy Cricket right here. So say I'm using my HG2s. Same stats, just a little bit higher milliamp hour for battery life. So that's 8.4 volts running in series, because it doubles the voltage, but the amp limit remains the same. So 8.4 volts over 20 amps comes out to 0.42 ohms for our lowest safe voltage, or our lowest safe resistance. Sorry, running that through the power equation, we get 20 amps times 8.4 volts is equal to 168 watts. That being said, so this runs at, well, this is a little higher because I am running a little bit lower than 0.42. I'm running at 0.37. So that works out to a little bit higher wattage, I believe, because the amps will be different. I don't have a calculator on hand. Let's see if I can just do this real quick. Let's see. This is going to take too long here. Where's the pencil? Alright, so I know my volts and my resistance, so I can determine the amps like that. So let's say 4.2 volts divided by 0.37 3, 6. I can't actually do that off the top of my head. I thought I would be able to. Okay, well, you know what? I'll put it in the description below. We'll figure out how many amps I'm running at and what the output wattage is. That'll go in the description. I've got a dual cell parallel unregulated mod. I've written mechanical there, but it's, I mean, it would technically be unregulated from all of the devices that I've seen out there, rather than straight mechanical. In a parallel, each cell takes half of the amp load, but doubles the milliamp hour. Still has the same output voltage, though. So you're essentially, that's when you have two batteries, both the positives going to one connection, both the negatives going to another. And that would double the amp, or not double the amp load. I say double the amp load just because that makes the calculation easier. But essentially, each cell can take each cell takes half of the total amp draw. So we've got 4.2 volts. I punched in 40 amps just for ease of calculation. Comes out to 0.105 ohms. And then running that again, running this through the wattage calculation. We're running that at 168 watts as well, just like the dual series mechanical mod. Yeah, and right here I've just got to assume each cell is rated to a 20 amp and has a charge of 4.2 volts. Calculated resistance represents the lowest safe resistance for each device, assuming ideal conditions. So that is Ohm's Law in a little snippet, as well as the battery ratings in a little snippet. Now the second part of this I've got is converting milliamp hours to watt hours, which I think makes a little more sense. I'm just going to hopefully stick this down here so I can read it without tilting this camera too much. Ta-da! Get it in there? Okay, so now converting milliamp hour to watt hours. Battery life is normally measured in milliamp hours. So, for example, my Sony VTC4s, 2100 milliamp hours. My HG2s are 3000 milliamp hours. Now, it makes more sense, really, if you're trying to determine the battery life, like how long your batteries will last with vaping, if you do it in watt hours. It's a little bit extra calculations thrown in there. If you're not into that, then that's cool too. But I've done a little bit of calculating how long the batteries will last. And keeping in mind that it will vary, because you do experience a little bit of voltage drop as the batteries die, especially in unregulated devices or mechanical devices. So, assuming ideal conditions, assuming the battery pumps out the same 4.2 volts the entire time, the formula for watt hours is the milliamp hours times the voltage over 1000, or E equals Q times V over 1000. So, assuming I'm using the Samsung 25R here again, assuming 2500 milliamp hours at 4.2 volts is, sorry, one second. It's 10,500 divided by 1,000, so it's 10.5 watt hours. So, at 1 watt, you can fire the battery continuously for 10.5 hours. So, assuming that we're using it in the tube mod here, and there's no voltage drop, ideal conditions, it's always firing at 4.2 volts or 84 watts. I can calculate that down to 10.5 divided by 84 is 0.125 hours. So multiply that by 60 for minutes, and then by 60 again for seconds. You get 450 seconds. So for 450 seconds, you can fire it at 84 watts. assume about 5-second puffs, that equals 90 puffs. Now for the series mod, 2500 mAh, again, assuming I've got two Samsung 25Rs in here, which I don't, and it fires at 8.4 volts the whole time, which it won't because of voltage drop. You divide that by 1,000, so ideal conditions, we're looking at 21 watt hours in this. So that is double the watt hours of the tube mod, because there's two batteries. Actually, I'm not entirely sure why it's double the watt hours, but I'm just punching the numbers into the formula. And so you take that 21 watt hours divided by 168 watts to determine the length of time. And now this is a bit of a mind blow moment here. We get 0.125 hours, so the same as the tube mod. That's kind of cool. Now the parallel mech mod, we're going to be getting double the milliamp hour on the parallel mech mod. So that's going to be at 5,000 milliamp hours times 4.2 volts. Over 1,000 comes to 21 watt hours again. Again, if we follow that down, it works out to 90 puffs again. So with 2,500 milliamp hour batteries, they work out to about 95-second puffs. Really, in any of these configurations. It was a bit of a like, wait, what? Like when I did all the calculations, assuming that they are all at the lowest safe build, they are all firing at maximum amperage, you'll get about 95-second puffs. Now I don't know how often people puff, how often people take a 5-second drag. Like I usually take about 3-second drags on my series mod. On my tube mods, I sometimes take as much as 6-second drags. I've seen people take 1-second drag. I've seen people take 10-second drags. That's why they have those 10-second cutoffs. It will vary with each person, but you can figure out what works for you in those calculations and work it out for yourself. I will put the formulas all in the description below. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put I'll take a picture of this so you can see it a little better, and I'll put it right over the screen, right in front of my face, so you can see it for this entire time that I'm talking now. I'm just going to talk and say random things just so that I have time to put this thing over about 10 seconds so you have a good chance to see it. And we are at 1, 2, 10. Okay, we're at 10 seconds. Okay, so that is going to be this one. I've already put this one up. I will put a watt hour one here as well for 10 seconds. So we're going to start now. 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and there we go. Okay, so that will have the watt hour calculation formula for you. That being said, we've covered the Ohm's Law, we've covered battery ratings. Now, this is just for 18650s that I have here, that'll be up on the screen. I haven't seen one by Mooch out for 26650s yet. I'm still looking. So if I find one by the time this goes up, I will put the link in the description, and I will try to put it here for about 10 seconds, or maybe after for about 10 seconds. That being said, I can't stress it enough, guys. Stay safe. Vape safe. Let's not give the fearmongers anything else to talk about. Let's just try to do it for not only your own safety, but the future of vaping. Like, it's important. It's important for your own safety and for the safety of others, hundreds of others that may not be able to quit without using vapor products. it's important not just for yourself, but for millions of others on the planet who still smoke cigarettes, who we need to get off the big tobacco bandwagon and onto the the vape bandwagon. So simple enough. Like it's saved me from smoking cigarettes. And like if it was around when my grandpa was my age, then maybe he wouldn't have had all these lung problems, and maybe he wouldn't have passed away so early. So vape safe, guys, and stay Smurfy. Those guys can bounce back from anything.